Hey everybody, welcome to MTG Nexus. We're continuing our burn month. Our goal here on this channel is to be the most informative Magic the Gathering channel for whatever topic we're covering in this particular month. This particular month we're covering burn in all its various matchups, iterations in both modern and standard. Hope to touch on legacy and pauper a little bit, but we are focusing primarily on modern and standard. Today's matchup is burn versus Amulet Titan. This is a deck that is seen more regularly on the SCG Tour than at GPs and on Magic Online necessarily, but a deck you need to be aware of. This is the second of two Primeval Titan decks, the first one obviously being Balakit. So, what does burn look like? Of recent note, you've got mainly the Boros lists with some light up the stages. This is the list we've kind of cycled through a couple times. Primary focus is on the Skewer the Critics light up the stage in this list. A lot of lists are skewing light up the stage to play more copies of Searing Blaze, more copies of Lightning Helix, or Skullcrack in the main, so it all depends on whether you need light up the stages to compete with decks like Black Green Rock, etc. Key sideboard cards are Path to Exile and Skullcracks. Some people can bring in Smash to Smithereens, really depends on the particular build of Amulet you're facing, but we'll get into that here in a minute. As far as Amulet, it's kind of been split into two or three camps right now. The first one is the relatively older Hive Mind version. This gives them a backup combo of Hive Mind plus one of their packs. Especially since we're burn, we cannot pay for 2 green. So this is a plan they can rely on to kill us on turn 4. Coalition Relic is kind of the newer tech that's kind of popped up in the last couple months. It's filled in a lot of like the Trinket Mage slots and stuff. Allows them to, on its own, get to turn 4 Titan. And then beyond that, you've got your Sakura Tribe Scouts, Azusa's Lost but Seekings, and Amulets. Sideboard key cards are things like Engineered Explosives, Path to Exile, and Negates. We'll get more into that in a bit. The newest version of Amulet that's been popping up is the Karn the Great Creator version. So this deck, instead of playing the Hive Mind package, is playing 3 or 4 copies of Karn the Great Creator and a bunch of bullets to go get in the sideboard. The big one for them being obviously Engineered Explosives and Wormcoil Engine against us. And then Engineered Explosives in the main deck, along with Primeval Titans and their Kabira Crossroads. So what does the burn side look in this matchup? Key cards in the main deck are your 1-drop creatures, and any effects that allow you to profitably tag their mana creatures, especially on like if you're on the play, Searing Blazing a Tribe Scout's a pretty big deal. Really, there's no way for burn to interact with Amulet game 1, so it's bigger to be able to hit an Azusa or a Tribe Scout, but if they're smart, they also know how to play around that and sequencing their lands with Azusa, so often they'll still get at least one extra land drop before you can respond, because you cannot respond to Azusa until they have a trigger or they pass the phase, etc. So that's the nature of Magic. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't always respond when you want to respond. And playing lands is not something you can respond to. Sideboard, key cards are anything that prevents life gain and anything that deals with Primeval Titan slash any of their big threats. Like some of them, the versions still run Rorik Thar, which can obviously be very problematic for burn to deal with, taking 6 damage for each spell you cast. So anything like Path to Exile, Ensnaring Bridge, Deflecting Palm, anything that can either deal with their Primeval Titan or turn its damage into our advantage. So anything you're playing with like that, and then Skullcracks, Atargus Commands, Leyline of Punishment, if you're happen to be running Rampaging Frostodon for some reason. Those are all cards you want to bring in the matchup to slow their life gain, which is primarily the biggest way they kill you. Because oftentimes the deck's Goldfish about the same speed, although obviously they still can kill on turn 2 or turn 3 with their nut draws, but the main game plan they win is the life gain game plan. So Burn's game plan, get on the board early, 1-drops, Eidolon on the play, still usually pretty good. Slow the 6 mana plan down, kill the mana dorks if possible. If not, try to get them dead on turn 4. One of the downsides of going away from things like Skullcrack and such is we have less ways to disrupt their life gain with Kabira Crossroads or Radiant Fountain or whatever life gain land they're particular playing when they go get their Primeval Titan. Post board, once again, get on the board, kill their acceleration. If you notice they happen to be on a heavy Coalition Relic and Amulet plan, it's not terrible to bring in things like Smash or Cindervines or Destructive Revelry, but oftentimes you want to focus on killing the mana dorks if possible, and it's debatable how many pieces of like artifact hate in particular you want to bring in. Obviously, if they're on the current plan, you have even more of a situation where you want to hold up artifact destruction during the turn. So that's something to consider whenever you're playing against them. Notice whether they're on the current plan, how many pieces of artifacts they have laying around, like Amulet and Coalition Relic, and then disrupt their life gain, stop their life gain in their ramp, and then whatever answers to Titan you have on the board, whether it's Ensnaring Bridge or Path to Exile or Deflecting Palm. Just understand that it's not a permanent solution. You still need to get them dead, because they will eventually find an Engineered Explosives or Reclamation Sage, something to answer your bridge and then kill you, or they will eventually find another Titan. So at that point, you just need to get the game over. And understand that they will have the ability to recur their life gain lands quite a bit, so if you can stop the life gain during that key turn, it's usually enough to swing the matchup in your favor. And then obviously they have turn 4 kills at their disposal with, Titan Haste kill you, or Hive Mind into whatever, or Karn into Mycosynth Lattice. There's a lot of different things that they can have, so keep in mind you need to get the game over as quickly as possible. Key cards from the Amulet side, keeping it generic because there are a couple different builds of this. Primeval Titan, obviously resolving a prime time, allows you to go get like Colony Gardens and Kabira Crossroads to kind of deaden any type of aggressive start that Burns had. Allows you to gain life, especially if you have Nazusa in play. You can go get a prime time, go get a Kabira Crossroads, bounce it, play it again, often gaining 4 life a turn when this cycle is going through. This is kind of your key things. Get to Primeval Titan as quickly as possible, or whatever your 6 mana payoff happens to be in your hand. Then your sideboard cards, anything that interacts with Burns' game plan. Engineered Explosives, Path to Exile, Negates. Anything that slows the burn deck down, counters a key spell. Those cards are all kind of important, especially Engineered Explosives, because you can answer the 1-drop creatures. You can answer an Eidolon if you're on a Ancient Stirrings, Azusa, multiple cheap spell draw. Also can answer Ensnaring Bridge for the burn decks that are still playing that. And Negate obviously can stop their last key burn spell, or it can stop a key like Path to Exile, like Spell Pierce. It's kind of the same thing. Anything that you have that cheaply interacts with burn spells can be pretty relevant. And then in the Titan's game plan, you need to have the fast Titan or combo win. So turn 4 on the play at the latest, turn 3 on the draw, because obviously Burns is usually a turn 4 deck. And then when you're playing the control role, whether you happen to have naturally drawn your Kabira Crossroads, happen to resolve the Titan and they answered it, keep replaying your Kabira Crossroads or Radiant Fountains, gain a bunch of life. Burn has a hard time coming back from that, especially if you can stifle their aggression. Then Engineered Explosives, Walking Ballista, anything you can play to kind of pick off their board and make them rely on burn spells to finish you off. Post board, your number one priority is kind of playing more of the control role. Obviously, you can still be the aggressor, go get your early combo and such, but you're more likely to have things like Kabira Crossroads, Aston Baloth, Thragtusk, Wormcoil Engine, if you're playing the Karn package, and then you have more answers to their things. Engineered Explosives, Path to Exile. If you still happen to be on the really old builds with the red sweepers, bring those in by all means. But anything that interacts with their stuff while still allowing you to deploy your game plan, and obviously, you can still goldfish them. You can still do turn 4 on the play with a Titan or a Hive Mind combo win. Keeping in mind, some versions of Burn do play some amount of green sources, so make sure if you're going for the Hive Mind win, if you're still on that build, that they don't have multiple Stomping Grounds in play, so that could kind of disrupt what's going on. And then obviously turn 3 on the draw, because Burn turn 4 on the play can often kill you. So that's kind of the overview of the matchup. Amulet is probably slightly favored, but this is a matchup that really depends more on the skills and draws of the Amulet player than the Burn player. Burn's pretty consistent with what it executes. Amulet obviously has a wide variety of hands, especially while the London Mulligan rule is not currently in play. So, Amulet's the more powerful deck. It has ways to beat Burn, has more ways to beat Burn than Burn has to beat it. However, Burn's consistency versus Amulet's more powerful draws, like sometimes Amulet has a lot more moving pieces that need to come together as a ramp strategy, so sometimes Burns can disrupt that and get the kill, but oftentimes the life gain land and the Colony Gardens and the chump blocks with the mana creatures after you use them, all that can usually buy enough time for them to get to a Titan. And then if you can't answer the Titan or prevent the life gain and then kill them the following turn, Oftentimes, that's enough for Amulet to turn the game around. Plus, with these different angles of attacks with Karn and Hive Mind, be mindful of what you're playing against. Pay attention to their lands, like are their lands skewing towards white, or their lands skewing towards the blue package with Serum Visions and such. So there's a lot of different things you can see. Try to keep an eye out, see what your opponent's executing, but obviously their primary thing is getting a Titan into play and then winning from there. So most of this comes down to the skill of the Amulet player and the build of the Amulet player more than it does what Burns doing. Burns usually pretty consistent, executes the game plan. You want to make them have it, and as far as the Amulet side, you want to make sure that you stay alive while you're developing your game plan. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. If you made it all the way here to the end, please feel free to check down the link down below to our Discord channel. I'm working on that each and every day to try to improve it, communicate with my fans, etc. a little bit better than sometimes YouTube or any other communication other than streaming, and I'm able to see people in chat. Obviously, we all live real lives. We all have busy schedules, so that's the easiest way to get a hold of me these days. And as always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This has been John from TG Nexus. Hope everybody has a great day.